Okay, so today we are starting with the next spread in chapter 8. We're looking at 8.3, which is basically still talking about healthy and respectful relationships. But now we're going to try to link them to the actual dimensions of health and well-being. So we're going to link it to physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual dimension of health and well-being. So just to reiterate, or just to go through again, what is a healthy and respectful relationship? So we did go through this last class when we did 8.2. A healthy and respectful relationship is basically any relationship where you've got positive communication and a person feels like they are supported, that they are connected with the other person in a positive and productive way, and that they feel cared for, and they feel that they've got someone that they can lean on for support or for any kind of, any kind of interaction that is positive there. So when we talk about healthy and respectful relationships, we need to understand that they don't just affect one dimension of health and well-being, but all the dimensions of health and well-being. And remember, if you think back to chapter 1, the dimensions of health and well-being are known as PMES, so physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. So this spread mainly just goes about how are the different dimensions of health and well-being affected when you have a healthy and respectful relationship. Alrighty, so the first one is impact on physical and mental health and well-being. So when you've got a healthy and respectful relationship with another person, and that could be any form of relationship. We looked at the different types of relationship in the last class. That could be anything from, the relationship you have with your family or the relationship you have with your friend. Okay, so how does it affect our physical health and well-being? Well, people who are in healthy and respectful relationships, we did talk about this concept of abuse in the last lesson. People who are in a healthy and respectful relationship are generally less likely to suffer from abuse and from violence. And so obviously as a result of that, they might be less likely to experience things like physical injuries, okay, things that actually affect and harm the physical body. Another way that physical health and well-being is good for another way that healthy and respectful relationships can promote physical health and well-being is that if you've got a group of friends, or if you're on good terms with your siblings, you guys can form a little exercise group. Like you can go out and you can play sport together, or you can go on a running you can have a running group together. Okay, so this can obviously impact our ability to engage in physical activity. And again, physical activity can help you to maintain a healthy body weight, or if you're overweight or obese, it can actually help you to lose some weight, so you do achieve a healthy body weight. Either way, that is a physical health impact because you are benefiting your physical body and your body functioning and your body systems. Now, how do healthy and respectful relationships then affect your mental health and well-being? Well, generally when we talk about mental health and well-being, we're talking about our ability, or the extent to which we feel stressed, the extent to which we experience things like anxiety, the extent to which we think in a positive way. So if we do have positive and healthy and respectful relationships, whether it's a friendship, whether it's just a family connection with your siblings or your parents, okay, you are likely to feel less stressed, you're likely to have less anxiety, and you're likely to feel more confident in your ability to be able to express how you feel. You don't have to bottle up your thoughts. There are people with you that you can actually vent your worries to, that you can actually tell them about what's on your mind, rather than keeping it all bottled up and just stressing yourself out. Obviously, when you're in a healthy and respectful relationship, it also boosts your self-esteem. So if you've got friends who, every time you buy a new item of clothing, or every time you change your hairstyle, or you change your sense of fashion or whatever, they're always kind of hyping you up, and they're always kind of like, yeah, you look really good, or, that really suits you. Or if you try something that doesn't suit you, they give you the honest truth rather than trying to sugarcoat it. And they tell you, you know what, I think this would look better on you, or I think this style would suit you a little more. That obviously has the end result of giving you a good self-esteem, and obviously a good self-confidence as well. And you feel like there are people I have around me that can actually provide me with a lot of social support. And so that ability, that feeling that, I've got this peace of mind, that I've got people around me that want good for me and that will support me, will help you to achieve less stress and less anxiety in your life. Okay? So that's basically talking about the impact of healthy and respectful relationships on your physical and your mental health and well-being. Alrighty. The next slide is looking at how do positive, healthy, and respectful relationships have a good impact for your emotional and social well-being. So when we're looking at emotional health and well-being, it's all about our emotions, in other words, how we feel. Okay, and one thing I wanted to point out is that some of you still kind of confuse mental and emotional health and well-being. So there are some of you who still think that, for example, depression is an emotional state. Remember, I always kind of drill it into your heads that depression is a mental state. It's not to do with our emotions. Okay, if you want to talk about someone feeling depressed, but you want to put an emotional spin of it, just say that they feel disappointed or they feel sad or they feel upset, because those are actual emotional feelings. But depression is a mental state. So don't associate depression with emotion. Now, emotional health and well-being, obviously, if I'm in a healthy and respectful relationship, regardless of what type of relationship that is, I'm going to be able to express my emotions a lot more freely. I'm going to be able to tend to feel more happier or less likely to feel upset, if you flip the coin. And essentially, that's what emotional health and well-being is, and how it's affected when you are in a healthy and respectful relationship. But it is important to remember that just because you are in a healthy and respectful relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to be happy 100% of the time. Okay, and generally we don't expect that. Okay, we don't expect that, even if we are in the best relationship in the world, where you know, that person understands you, or that group of people completely are on the same page as you. There might be little conflicts that can occur. Okay, even when you have the best friendships, or even when you've got the best relationships, conflict can always occur. And that doesn't mean that the moment you feel sad or disappointed or frustrated or angry in a relationship, especially if it's something that only happens once in a while, that doesn't mean that your relationship has broken down or your relationship has become unhealthy. It just means that that's something, again, that the people involved in that relationship have to work through. So they have to communicate. Okay, and if you can communicate and get past these emotions that are negative, that are affecting you, then obviously it means your relationship will come out. You'll come out on the other side a lot stronger. Okay, and your relationship will be strengthened as a result of that. How does you know, a healthy and respectful relationship impact your social health and well-being? Well, it's kind of obvious. You know, relationships are at the heart and the core of what health, you know, of what social health and well-being is about. So whenever we talk about social health and well-being, most of us always try to connect it back to relationships. So if you've got a healthy and respectful relationships, that's just simply another outlet for you to be able to express how you feel. That's another outlet for you to be able to interact socially. Okay, and obviously social support is something that we've looked at before, and it directly comes out of positive, healthy, and respectful relationships. So the impact on social health and well-being is kind of obvious. Okay. So yeah, that's the impact on emotional and social health and well-being. And then the last one that we're looking at is the impact on spiritual health and well-being. So we know that spiritual health and well-being is a little bit different from all the other dimensions. It focuses a little bit more on your sense of belonging to a community group, belonging to a group of people who have the same values, the same opinions, the same interests as you. And this kind of really intersects quite nicely with healthy and respectful relationships, because generally we tend to be friends with people who share the same interests as us. So you might like the same band, share the same interests with you, as in you like the same subject, or you have the same hobbies, or you know, you like the same people, or you hate the same people. Okay, so essentially spiritual health and well-being is about feeling that sense of belonging and connectedness to another person. And so every positive relationship, especially when you feel like you connect and you're compatible with that person, you automatically derive this sense of spiritual health and well-being. Okay, people who are in healthy and respectful relationships, remember, spiritual health and well-being is about that sense of it is about that sense of belonging, but it's also about other things as well. For example, people who have good spiritual health and well-being tend to feel like a sense of hope for the future, that whatever is in my future is going to be good for me. They feel like there's some kind of purpose to their life, and the purpose to you know, them living, essentially. Okay, so when we are in healthy and respectful relationships, we feel like we have a purpose in life. For example, if you're one of the older siblings in your family and just recently, your mom gave birth and now you've got like, now you've got a baby brother or a baby sister. That kind of gives you, and if you've got positive family connections, normally, that would give you this meaning and purpose in life. Like now I am, an older brother or an older sister to a little baby. A little baby who is, one day going to look up to me. So you kind of derive, or you kind of increase in the terms of your, what is the purpose? What is the role that you have? With the reference to this image here, a football coach might feel like he's a part of a community by building a strong relationship with his team of young sports players. Okay, and vice versa. So these young these young sports players, they're essentially going to also feel like them being a part of that group where the coach is looking out for them, the coach is encouraging them, giving them one-on-one pep talks and advice and guidance. They're going to feel like they are also part of a group where everyone is on the same page and they all have the same end goal. Okay, so that is basically them being able to achieve a sense of belonging and connectedness. Okay, so that's essentially the impact on spiritual health and well-being from having a positive and respectful relationship. Okay, and just a quick slide that summarizes what makes a relationship healthy. So you can see some keywords here. These are all basically examples of what makes a relationship healthy. And if you look at any of these words here, for example, something like good communication, that automatically lends itself to increasing your social health and well-being. Trust again makes you feel secure. Safety makes you feel secure. So these are things that lend themselves to mental health and well-being. Understanding and mutual respect. When someone understands you and they have respect for you, you're less likely to be stressed or anxious. You're less likely to feel like, you're kind of walking on eggshells when you talk to that person, because you know that they won't misunderstand you. So that's going to be likely to boost your mental health as well. So essentially, these are all just characteristics of what makes a relationship healthy. And it's important that if you are ever asked a question of, explain how a healthy and respectful relationship promotes mental health and well-being, you are using key words there that are connected to that dimension. Words like stressed, words like anxious. Okay, if it's about emotional health and well-being, you're bringing words like emotions, feelings, ability to manage emotions, control emotions, because we really need to work on making our answers really specific with all of those keywords. And we are going to continue to work on that so that, by the time we get to next year, you guys will be kind of, you'll have a lot of practice writing those sorts of answers where your answers don't sound general but are very specific, and you won't run the risk of losing marks unnecessarily there. Alrighty, yep, so that's the end. I'm just going to stop recording here.